Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all about hospitality, customer service, and the businesses that rely on that to keep bringing customers back. So I have Chris here. He also has a podcast and a very specific industry that he works with. I'm going to let him tell you all about it, and we're going to dive into the key tips and tricks for customer retention. So thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Dawn. What a treat.
Can you tell everyone who you are and who you serve?
Oh, yeah. Well, my name is Chris Deferio, and I am the owner and sole consultant with Keys to the Shop Consulting and Podcast. And I serve the specialty coffee retail community through the show and through the consulting and coaching.
Awesome. So how long have you now been in specialty coffee?
Oh, 25 years. This is the 25th. It's a little over 25 years, honestly. I think it was 1999 was the banner year, the beginning year.
Fantastic. All right. So we're going to dive in all about the coffee industry, but in general, how it's applicable to anybody who has customer service, hospitality. One of the things about specialty coffee shops, and those kinds of things is they're in a lot of places location based, right? So people have their favorite shop that they go to, and they will continue to do business for whoever knows how long that they're in that same location. And it's typically a repeat business that's pretty frequent, daily, weekly, monthly, those kinds of things, which can be very different from a lot of other types of retail, right? Restaurants may not have that kind of same, I need my morning cup kind of thing. And let's talk about what it takes to have something that consistent that people will come visit you 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 8 days a week to do business with you.
I've heard it said that it's kind of a lifestyle business. Not that any other business is not a lifestyle business, except when you're dealing with customers face to face every day, you really have a hard time creating boundaries between your emotions and your energy and the energy they give off and their emotions. And therefore, you got to be prepared to be able to dip into that world and dip out of that world. You have to have a little bit of resiliency and some. Yeah, I don't want to say you have to have your life together necessarily because none of us do. However, the pressures of some of the unknowns, how many people are gonna come in today? What are their orders gonna be? What mood are they gonna be in? What about your staff? What about you? So it's kind of a co-creative, process having a coffee shop, and, every day you'll see the same people, and you've gotta have a really big, why behind what you're doing, because if you only try to get energy to justify going another day, then you're not really going to last very long if it's only because people are treating you nicely or the day goes well. You've got to have something that's a little bit of a locus of control inside of you.
Okay. So when you're talking about this is different from other types of retail and other types of things, and you're saying putting up your boundaries, are you talking about maybe taking some days off and having staff run the place? What are you talking about? What are some of the common ways that you could put boundaries in place that make sense for this type of really consistent face to face business?
Yeah, just the other day, I was talking with a client who is a mom and a new mom, and she is asked me the question like, "How do other people do this? Because this is nuts." And I said, "Well, everybody kind of feels the same way in a certain way, but the answer is that we don't borrow from our personal lives, kind of like borrowing from your savings to pay for groceries. You have to start asking questions about how are you using the time that you have scheduled yourself to be doing business, and are you guarding the time that you need? Are you the asset that you're guarding in order to show up fresh? Or are you just saying, no, I can take work home with me. I can, work until midnight. And somehow in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, oh yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk would approve of that. I'm hustling. There's all this hustle culture in the back of our heads from YouTube Shorts, and it's short circuiting our brains into feeling like somewhere we're towing the line for our ilk. Entrepreneurs. This is what entrepreneurs do. But that's kind of a twisted way to look at it. You don't owe your business the downgrade of your life or a downward spiral of energy, because then you'll start to hate your business. You'll resent your employees. You'll resent people for actually ordering things because,
Mhm.
well, how dare you have a catering order? How dare you make me work more? But that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So that's the cycle we find ourselves in. So guarding your time, but also I think guarding your emotions to realize that this is a business. It's not a family. It's not a, as much as you would like it to be, it's not necessarily a movement. And even if anybody thought of it that way, it's their business to make it mean that to them in their own personal way. You can't force that to happen. It gets a little weird and culty that way. And some coffee shops are guilty of that. And so by making it more of a business, we create systems, strategies, SOPs, checklists. This is the way we do things, this is how we do it. I'll train you to do it this way. But when we're doing it from the perspective of, oh, well, we're just all like vibing together in this space, right? Then all of a sudden, your processes and systems they don't exist because you're hoping that the vibe is just gonna carry you through the day because we never treated it like a business. We treated it like I don't know, something you belong to instead of something that you're hired to do.
Yeah, creating more of like a club sort of, environment, yeah. Specialty coffee, I mean, we can talk a little bit about the cultish thing, right? So, it was craft beer before that maybe and some of those things where, you had to be a particular way in order to, do the business or to be seen as someone included in the industry. I think you can probably speak to there are coffee shops, independents, roasteries, independent people who are not necessarily following sort of the idea that it has to be done one way or the other. And, in that way, what are you seeing as a consultant where are you seeing pushback from that? Are you seeing people who, believe there's just one right way to do specialty coffee? I know that we went to the trade show where you and I met, and they were doing those, rare and unusuals where they're doing, like, infusion beans and things, and not sure how well that gets received kind of the broader industry, but I'm curious about your thoughts on that because you bring up a great point, and a lot of people think their coffee shop is like, "Oh, that's my place where I go in the morning and I read my paper and I drink my coffee," or "That's my place to go and plug in my laptop for a while." And if it is a business, maybe there needs to be, some understanding around it not being a club or it not being, having I guess the way to put this is the model doesn't have to run a particular way, as a coffee shop, especially for longevity.
Yeah, okay, so if you read a book about how to, raise your son or daughter, and it's not gonna know your child. You have that's your responsibility. You pay attention to their rhythms, their idiosyncrasies, the things they laugh at, the things that upset them. That's the way I think about it is there's common industry knowledge about things like, percentages and metrics and business plans, etc. Those are baseline good practices and they're fine. But there's never really any getting around the fact that you have to pay attention to your community and your neighborhood and your customers. Um, and really, again, back to that why. But um, you know, I think the answer is that we're very insecure when we start this. A lot of people who start coffee shops in the coffee industry have never worked in coffee before,
Uh,
and so
let me interject this one question then. How often do you see people starting coffee shops without business plans, although they wouldn't try to start any other kind of industry without one?
I mean, yes, all the time, and and I will say this, even with a business plan, it's not a guarantee of success. It is helpful. It's a thought exercise. It is not what your business is going to look like in 5 years, and if it does, you're in big trouble, because you're not listening. So yeah, we see it a lot, and, the thing is people want to, alleviate the pain quickly.
Mm,
And the pain of not knowing means I'm going to buy whatever thing is sold to me with the most guarantees of success, whether that's a template or a downloaded manual or an espresso machine or a business plan. And if I plug it in and I don't know the industry, I'm like, this is why I bought these things. I'm spending a lot of money to do it. I got my SBA loan and that's what I'm going to spend it on. If it doesn't work, then it's not because I didn't do the right thing. It's because I didn't buy the right thing.
mm.
And so your question is, are people doing, what's the right thing? And I think I got off track here a little bit, but people are generally trying to find what works in the industry so that they can try to find success quicker and have a bigger guarantee of success, um, which is understandable. However, there's going to have to be this breaking through of the not knowing and growing as a person to actually earn the business and manage the business that you grow, because the systems can't run the business for you. People run the business using systems. So what I see in my consulting is that um, people are after either a guaranteed success based on market trends, and they just want the thing that that other place has that they saw when they're on vacation. They say, well, I want that. And there's a whole story behind that company. You don't even know that they're VC funded. You don't know that they're insolvent. Nobody knows. So let's pay attention to what you're doing. And I'm encouraged to see a lot of smaller operators actually taking that uh, tact and saying, we want to serve our community. We want something that works. And we want it to be something grounded in our culture, in our something that makes something meaningful for people, not just a cup of coffee, but we want to do it the right way. So as a consultant, you have to kind of push back against some assumptions that creep in through marketing and that desire to not have to go through the painful process of growth. Um, yeah, that's what I'm seeing is we are beholden to the loudest marketers that claim they can fast track you to success, which by and large is just not true. And honestly, this is why you see a lot of homogenous landscape of coffee shops in the world. You can go to Europe, you can go to Australia, you can go to even like South America, Africa, the coast of the United States. You wouldn't know where you were, just like if you were in a Love's gas station somewhere in the United States. It's just the same thing, because we're trying to skip the part where the meaning of it exists. And that's a lot of why some of our concepts of coffee shops don't work, because they're just an inch deep and a mile wide. There's no root in itself.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, and this does circle back before I interrupted you about the business plan. You were saying a lot of people don't necessarily have industry experience in coffee, so they probably are buying things that are already maybe roasted. Maybe they're not at that space. The industry has a lot of different moving parts, but I believe you are right. A lot of people get into it because they want to model something that's been successfully done somewhere else, and the coffee shop, as far as like, let's say just a Dunkin', not especially going to a Dunkin' where you're gonna drive in, you're gonna get your cup, and you're gonna do the thing. It becomes part of your routine. And I'm, wondering why you see so many people who have never had any industry experience, maybe they've never worked in a coffee shop, think that this is like a great thing to just kinda jump in and do it. It not only takes a lot of work, there's just a lot to the all the things, right? So the team, the financials, the profit, the
Yeah.
navigating all the things. So I guess the question would be, if they maybe had some business experience in another area, they look at coffee and they go, that should be pretty much the same. Is that sort of why you're seeing people without industry experience doing coffee generally?
Yeah, the people who are doing coffee without any experience are doing it quickly out of just sheer, they don't know what they're getting into.
Mhm.
And I interview people on my show all the time who say that's how we started, and they've been successful. Now, chalk that up to just you can learn.
Yeah.
Is it going to be more painful? Maybe. It'll take you longer. Is that bad that it takes you a long time? We seem to think so. I don't know that it is.
Right.
in and of itself. If it takes you 5 years to grow to 2 shops, was that somehow a failure? Should you feel bad for that? No.
Right. Yeah.
It so, we could always go back and ruminate on what we would have done, could have done, and that's just a trap. It takes you out of the present moment. But yeah, I think a lot of baristas and people who've worked in coffee before, you don't see a lot of them opening coffee shops.
Right.
They know.
Right. They don't. They don't. They'll work at 2 or 3 coffee shops, perhaps, or they'll yeah, it's I don't see that many bartenders owning bars either. It's kind of a thing. I wonder why that
Yeah.
is.
And well, also because, there's a little bit of a, skill of business that the actual technicians within the business sometimes lack as well. If you're a line cook and you're really good at your mise en place, so if you're really good at facing retail and you've got a whole Zen feng shui thing that you do that's resulted in more sales because of product placement 2 feet different than the other store. Yeah, like, you could be really good at that. But you could just break in a cold sweat when you see a P&L, and you're just not good at that, and, this is back to the whole, maybe tried and true in the business versus on the business, Michael Gerber's idea of the entrepreneurial seizure that a lot of technicians suffer to start their businesses, and in his book, he talks about, this woman who's making pies, and she loves making pies, but she opens a pie business and has no idea. So business people who have run businesses before oftentimes can be more successful running coffee shops than people who have worked in coffee shops who feel like the business part of it is some kind of, compromise, where they don't bother to learn about the math of how sustainable business works. And so you need a little bit of both, the hands-on, empathetic, coffee under your fingernails experience, and you need the humility to know, hey, it's a process of learning how to love the unlovable, the paperwork, the Excel sheets. And you can do that by connecting it directly and working constantly to connect this paper translates downstream to that customer bringing their family to play board games in my coffee shop and raising their children basically in this cafe. That happens because I can sit down and discipline myself to do the work that a business takes, not because I'm glued to the espresso machine and I can't get enough latte art and that kind of stuff. So that's a mark of maturity that I think is part of the entrepreneurial journey,
Right.
and it has to be. So, yeah.
Amazing. So coffee shops as third spaces. Do you still see that as a trend? I was reading, Starbucks became less known for their coffee and more known for their unicorn drinks and their pink drinks and becoming more of that bespoke drink maker, if you will. And they had actually opened a few drive-throughs. They shut down some of their kind of third space concept as far as their brick and mortars go in a few areas. What are your thoughts on that transition? And again, as you're saying, as a coffee shop, you don't have to follow those trends and you can do it your own way. But what are you seeing for that opening up a new shop? And are people still looking for third spaces?
Yeah, I think if you asked Ray Ogdenberg, who wrote the book, The Third Place, about that, it would be an answer of that is sort of our DNA
Mhm.
seeks out third places. Um, if you say blue car and then you think about it, you'll see blue cars everywhere. The reticular activating system is trained to find things you're thinking of. Our social structure somewhere in our psyche wants a third place. And I used to work in a cafe that was in a grocery store where this group of 6 old Greek men used to read magazines and newspapers together and drink the worst coffee imaginable. And it was just a grocery store. It wasn't even a proper coffee shop, but they did it because they wanted it and they made it happen. So whether it's a street corner barbershop, bar, bookstore, cafe, third places are just never going to go away. So you could, but I will say that you could make a third place very difficult to obtain if you are designing your cafe solely for the purpose of expediency, trying to get people to feel purposefully uncomfortable. Um, Simply opening a coffee convenience concept that pushes people away, that says, "Please don't come into our coffee shop. Just order online, order, from the drive-through. We don't even wanna see you, that's how much we love you." Uh, and so I'm a little bit, I get on my high horse around how we can design cafes better. I had, a lady on our show from Florida State University, Lisa Waxman, Professor Lisa Waxman wrote a book called, um, How to Design Coffee Shops for Community. She just goes into colors and schemes and how to protect the back of the customer so they don't feel if they feel safe, if they don't wanna be in the cafeteria style. There's a lot of things we can do, but you have to have intentionality. So, the 3rd place is always gonna be sought after, um, but our coffee concept largely can be based more on the idea that we just wanna make money. We just really want this thing to make a lot of money, and if customers are sitting and they're comfortable and they're talking for a long time, like, ugh, gross. We don't want that. So, that feels anathema to coffee shops to me.
Yeah, so we're talking here really not just about a coffee business, like a drive-through. There's one in Colorado. It's near my son's house. I think it's called Dutch Brothers.
Yeah.
Just but yeah, and they have somebody who stands outside, takes your order, you never leave your car, you drive around, you drive through, and that is not really what I like to think of as the coffee business. I think of that as that, again, bespoke sorta afternoon drink business. So when we're talking about the coffee shop, the coffee concept, your work in this industry, it is truly to sort of continue what I would call the old idea of the coffee shop being the place where you go and you experience it. It's not just to rush in there and get your latte and leave. Maybe sometimes it is. Uh, but generally speaking, you're talking about creating the space for the specialty coffee person who enjoys it, who wants a place to go, the third space. It feels like the industry really has, over about the last 5 or 6 year, kind of trended less towards that sit down, come in, play a board game, and much more towards you just need to get your coffee. And there are so many ways to do that. You brought up something interesting about online ordering because I don't know how many emails we get a month from, put this in your store. You can buy this app. They can order and then just pick up. They're actually sending those other companies that are sending out this idea that you will make more money, you'll make more sales. People tend to spend more if they order on the app. And I just thought that was very interesting because it really does feel like that is almost opposite of what we want in a specialty coffee business, especially in a cafe.
Yeah. Well, I'll speak to that just briefly, because I even have a live stream in an hour from this interview talking all about automation, AI, and this type of convenience obsession that we have recently in coffee. And one of the things that we find is that, we both were at this trade show, and I've been doing Coffee Fest trade show for 20 years, and I've gone to the NRA show in Chicago, the Restaurant Association show, and fancy food shows, and all that stuff. Now, these are vendors who are making a microscopic percentage component of the overall whole of your business, whether that's a balsamic vinegar or a syrup or a cup. And they're paid to really push the idea that if you use this, it will make an incredible difference in your cafe. And back to the insecurity of the operator who opens for the first time, or even the first time barista owner of a coffee shop. That sounds really good. And we're constantly fed a habit. We've developed this habit of asking the industry, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? We don't even know what we want anymore. We want whatever they say we should do. So if our mind is just this Airbnb that's rented space for any kind of marketer out there who kind of maybe aligns a little bit with and they intone the name of hospitality, God forbid, that's like the word that just now that we're like the Manchurian candidate, we just wake, oh, you said hospitality, you must be genuine and authentic, so I'll buy your product. No, we've got to remain skeptical and in charge of our space mentally and physically. and we'll be surprised at how little we actually needed to stuff our shelves and our systems full of things that were not really intended to make us successful. Um, and we were never meant to be at the beck and call of the latest quote unquote innovation that tech companies or service companies offer us. We are supposed to have our hands on the wheel. Even an autonomous vehicle will beep at you if you leave your hands off the wheel for too long these days. So, like, look at we're pretty good, but we're not that good. So that's kind of another little rant on that idea, but I see it more and more these days. So instead of getting your cues from the quote unquote industry, think about what is in front of you. Start drawing a circle around your immediate people, neighborhood, community, etc. And if you want to see change in any industry you're in, I don't care if you're in any whatever retail it is, whatever business it is, it's going to start as a groundswell of individual integrity according to values that you decided you want to do. And you got to push against the promise of, oh, it's so slick and so easy and effortless to just go with what the industry wants because, yeah, they sold you that stuff, but that's not going to make you successful.
Right, that's an excellent point because I think there is this push. It's interesting. Even some of the restaurants are starting to use like I don't like the restaurants that had the little card readers at the table where you don't even get your bill anymore or a thank you or anything. And so, I wonder as people are entering into, the cafe space and coffee shop space, if they are seeing these trends and thinking, "Oh, I need to do that as well." There's that consumer expectation there, and again, coffee shops to me just seem like such an interesting little, organism in the world because about 65% or so of Americans, I believe was the latest statistic, drink coffee at least once a week. I think it's a little closer to 50% drink it daily. So it is something that is habitual. It's something that we'll go and look for. We could be in any town, out on vacation, we will go find our coffee, right? And, it's interesting that, sometimes we could maybe lose our sense of self because we see all these things going on in the industry, or we feel like if we don't keep up, we're gonna be left behind and we're not gonna be able to be successful. I think there's that other sort of mind game about having to keep up. It's like, well, every restaurant we were on, at whatever place had the card readers on the table. And I've been getting inundated with emails about putting in this mobile app and stuff. And you're saying we don't have to do that.
No,
And
you
that
don't know the
just,
story. You don't know the
yeah.
story behind why they have that. They had the same thought, and they did it because for no good reason too. And now you're assuming they have some deep, well-researched, "Oh, this is obviously a great move." Starbucks, for example, now they bought 200,000 Sharpies, and they're gonna write on cups again, and they started this whole sticker trend on, the printer prints a sticker, and you put it on the cup. And you know how many independent retailers bought into that because that's what the big guys are doing and I should do that. But now they're like, "Yeah, okay, I feel like that was kind of a mistake." So you just get jerked around. It's like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is so funny to me because it is again, it's a location business. It's local for most people, but people will anywhere else they go look for the same product typically. You won't see that with your barbershops, accountants, roofers, not even like your independently owned restaurants. People aren't traveling somewhere else and going, "Oh, nope, if I can't find, this chain, I'm not eating," you know what I mean? So even though they're very community centered, it is a little bit of a different type of business, simply because it is a product that people either make at home or they will seek out no matter where they go. So you have a chance to be that store, that place where people can go and enjoy this one product when you're home. They can rave about you, they can take you out as gifts, all those things. So, circling back again, I know I'm rambling because coffee in general just absolutely fascinates me. It's the same species of coffee. There's 3, right? But the species Cafe Arabica can taste different planted 20 yards apart. Completely taste different. The notes are different, the specialty coffee is different, the whole thing is different, so I am kind of a nerd on that front, not most people get into that or care, but, specialty coffee has come up and it is starting to become a lot more popular, with people over, I would say, the last couple of years, where people are seeking out actually specialty coffee, or they're seeking out single origins and things like that. What are you seeing, again, on the consulting side? Maybe somebody's not a roaster, and that's fine, but are you seeing that they're starting to kinda delve into some of those more single origins, exotic blends, um,
Yeah, yeah.
the products changing?
Yeah, so customer demand and what people are delving into sometimes are different. Customer demand has always been and always will be for the things that specialty coffee people just kind of don't drink themselves.
Right.
Often like, "Oh, it's a dark blend, it's Sumatra, it's like vanilla lattes," and like, "Oh, that's so boring if you work in the industry," or just so you're trying to push on customers the things that fascinate you. So what I'm seeing is that we're actually listening to the customer a little bit more when you see larger roasters out there having a variety of blends, for example. Blends are back. And single origin was the harbinger of things to come for third wave in the early 2000s when we said, "You know what? Blends are just a way to hide cheap coffee, and we're just gonna so focus on one bean, and it's gonna be so hyper, focused, and it's gonna be delicious." And anytime you reduce something down to a concept that is going to unlock this explosion of flavor just because of its being single origin, you're gonna disappoint, but the passion was there, right? But we're coming back to this idea that developing the roast of the coffee a little bit farther, having some cocoa and even, God forbid, some roastiness to the coffee, tobacco and deep fruits and stuff and blends, those are things that are being more celebrated now, thank goodness, because the consumer has always I feel it depends on what market you're in, okay? But by and large, you'll sell a ton of this type of coffee. And the industry now has said, you know, those of us who were full of a lot of hubris in our early 20s when we were in the mid 2000s are now in our late 30s and 40s, and we've experienced enough life to recognize and walk a mile in our customers' shoes to know maybe we were just a little full of it, and we wanted to push this, tooth enamel stripping sour Kenya single shots like you get in LA in 2003. And so yeah, the trends now, I think, is people are seeking out unique experiences in coffee shops. Sometimes my cynicism thinks it's because they can't rely on basic excellence, and so they look for novelty. Uh, so who knows? But they look for unique experiences. A lot of signature beverages in cafes now, thanks to the proliferation of coffee competitions. A lot of it our own take on classics like pumpkin spice and all that stuff. We have an episode on signature beverages coming out pretty soon, but we definitely see people wanting something tasty, fun, unique, but we also see in equal measure a real desire to find a place that makes you feel good because the basics are done with excellence and you are made to feel welcome, acknowledged, welcomed, and included. The hospitality is there. The new generation is devouring Will Guidara's book, Unreasonable Hospitality. In the older generation, it was all about Setting the Table by Danny Meyer, and so there it's kind of the torch is passed now, but hospitality has been this focus and simplicity and hospitality is huge, and, I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, again, the hospitality piece and the piece of listening to the customer and listening, to the industry being kinda separate. The industry gives great trend ideas. But sometimes the industry doesn't know the place where you are, right? So rural town, Ohio, 10,000 people, that kind of thing. That they're not kind of keyed in to farmers like to maybe drink their coffee at 5 in the morning, or they'll have them at 9:30 when they get out of the fields, right? So just different things that are very community focused that I think do get often missed, just in industry. But I want to talk to you also about the different types of customers that do visit cafes. And what I mean by that is, You have the casual coffee drinker, the one that just wants that really good cup of coffee. You've got the one that wants to talk about the new things or what they've seen. Maybe they were wanting to try something different. Maybe they change their order 3 times a week. And then you have those that are coming in and, like you said, they want just the environment. Maybe they just get one thing over and over and over again, and they stay, and they wanna be there for a while. How do we encourage and make sure that we are communicating that all of those types of people are welcome here, right? So the Dutch brothers, you're not getting out of your car. Obviously, you're not welcome to sit. There is a perception sometimes, especially in a restaurant that's very busy, you have to turn your tables every so often, right? That's how you make money. So I'm wondering if all of these kinds of ideas don't play into some of the consumer perception when they start seeking out that new opening coffee shop. How do we communicate all of this is welcome? We want you all to be part of this.
It's hard. It's hard because sometimes a coffee shop's concept is purposefully going to pursue a particular kind of customer. It's a very minimal open air industrial space with some really expensive glassware that makes these small drinks that have very little sugar in them. Now, it's not gonna go over well in a lot of the blue collar areas of the United States, for example, because they're brought up on larger and milkier sugary drinks. Now, you could convince yourself in the business plan that, well, we're going to bring good coffee to our community, which is such that's a red flag for me. I'm like, what do you mean by good coffee? Like, right? Because you have to attract customers that already drink coffee. You know, many people actually come to your shop and are like, I'm going to have coffee for the first time in your shop. Nobody.
Right.
They're already dialed in. They're like, we had a guest on the show recently who said this. I was like, yeah, of course, the customer is already dialed into a particular flavor. So do you want to attract everybody? Yes and no. It depends. It's okay if you're in a large city. You could be in New York City and just sell peanut butter sandwiches with your spin on it, and you could probably retire young. But you
Right.
can't you you can't do that in Zanesville, Ohio, you know? So, I think, figure out who you wanna serve, where you are, what's realistic, okay? Don't get so ambitious that you just do something completely unrealistic, um, and then design it so that you attract those people. Do you know where they already go? Do you know what they spend their money on already? Because that's a good indicator of where they will spend their money later in their, daily life. So that market research is important, and it comes back to communicating to them that, "Yeah, this is a place to be," starts with building the space, with how would I perceive this space when I walk into it? Colors, feel, smell, all that stuff, and then how am I treated? Now, kindness is evergreen.
Right.
Patience, kindness, generosity, consistency. These are the little things that people kind of want when they walk into a space. And I'll tell you, some of the best service encounters I've ever had came from Waffle House, for example. I mean, like, just a real sweetheart of a server. And I was like, this is better than almost any coffee bar I've ever been to where people are just hating their life and I get to watch them do it from the other side of the counter. So that's the big thing. You'll attract a huge demographic, a variety of demographics, because the differences between us are just not that so great that we don't all love to be treated well. So if you have a menu that's designed to help people say, okay, there's beautiful, simple coffees. Hospitality, Danny Meyer says, is done for you, not to you. So if a customer's idea of hospitality is, hello, large coffee, thank you so much, have a good day, that's very quick. Might as well have been a drive through. But they voted with their feet and their money to be there and do that. To them, that might be where they stay, that might be where they start. But you have to have the patience to let it unfold, and that next person in line might have the exact opposite expectation. And that's what I mean in the beginning when we talked about having resilience and having that sustained passion behind what you're doing that's not reliant on the consistency of other people's energy, because that changes. So that's the beauty of this is you can attract a really wide group of people with some very common in virtues and character traits that people look for across different experiences.
Amazing. So, where can people find you and learn more about you and your consulting? And then, of course, we're going to put the podcast in the notes there so people can learn more. And if you're in the coffee industry, I encourage you to stay knowledgeable on everything going on, trends and all the things. But to your point, you have to start it with your heart and you have to start it for what you want to build and not just follow those little electronic card readers that is so annoying to me. I don't know, that's one of my pet peeves. I don't wanna I wanna be able to say goodbye, and look you in the eye when I'm leaving the table. I don't know, I have a thing. So,
Yeah, yeah, you need a whole episode on that. Well, thank you for having me. It's a blast to talk about this stuff. So I'm honored again. So people can find me keystotheshop.com. You can email Chris, just CHRIS at keystotheshop.com. It's also at Keys to the Shop on Instagram. So you can reach out on the email or DM me if you want to chat about anything. And I will get back to you. I love having conversations. It's why we have nearly 1,000 episodes of a podcast. And we've been, doing this for quite a while. So look forward to hearing from y'all.
thank you so much. Alright, so we will talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.